And then we had, a quick cold front come through, and we had like a 1 week lull, but truly all through May was really, really good fishing.
I'm all about, first of all, everything outdoors. That's just, part of who I am. I love to hunt and fish and dive and spearfish.
That imports all the Century blanks into the USA. And he called me up and he said, "Hey, Frank, can I talk to you?" And we started talking one night about a blackfish rod.
And I was absolutely obsessed from that moment on, and stopped fishing entirely for any other species, and just learned and obsessed and became really driven to just fish this really elusive fish that's like super rare.
Welcome back to another episode of Anglers Anonymous Podcast. This is yours truly, Aaron Snyder, sitting down with some of the world's leading tackle manufacturers in the business, captains, first mates, and anyone that loves the outdoors as much as we do. So I hope you guys get as much as I've gotten out of sitting down with some of the guests that I've had the pleasure of interviewing. Stay tuned, guys. Much more to come. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome Mr. Al Gaggs to the podcast. Al, I've been following you for quite some time, buddy. I mean, I can't tell you how long, to be honest with you, because it's in record books now how long I've been following you, man, from the, the very start of my so-called fishing career and, up till the very present. And, Al, you've been in the business for quite some time, buddy.
Yeah, 45 years. It seems like 45 days, to be honest with you. When I try to look back and to the very first time that I got into the fishing world by accident, to be honest with you.
Really?
That's how it started. Well, it was an accident. I mean, I always loved to fish, but I'll tell you the quick story of how it all happened. I had a good friend of mine was an outdoor writer for the Springfield Union News up in Mass here, and he called me up one day during the shad season, and he says, "Hey," do you want to go out and catch a few shad? And I said, "Sure." So I used to make my own darts because I couldn't afford to go out and buy them. I mean, I think I was bringing home $70 a week, and my rent was $140 with everything included at the time. So
sure.
That's how far back it was, But anyways, so I used to make these darts in like a 2-room apartment and stuff, but the secret was I painted them with, at the time, my wife's nail polish, and I didn't know what I had, but in the glistening in that nail polish, now back then they made things that if they made them today, women's fingers would fall off, you know what I mean? So a lot of that stuff's been outlawed. So, but anyways,
right.
So I made a pile of these darts, and we were in an old tin boat, and we're chugging up the Connecticut River, and it's flowing. We got a 6-horsepower motor. We're like, go up 3 feet, lose 6, go up 3 feet, lose 6. But we finally get to where the shad fleet was, and we anchor, and we're looking at everybody, and, I say, "Hey, how you hit them? How you doing? What's up?" And nothing. Nobody's catching anything. So we put the anchor over, and we tie it on, and we threw our rods and stuff out, and bang, bang, bang. We started catching them like crazy, and I didn't think anything. I just thought we just hit a good load of fish. But, the boats are 12 feet from me on one side and 20 feet this side, and we're in the middle of them, and we're clobbering these things. So my friend Frank says, "Let's come out tomorrow." So we did. But he brought a fly rod with him. And this is how this whole thing started. He tied the dart on a fly rod, let it out of the back of the boat, because we just float him in the current,
Sure.
He got a whack on that thing and peeled every bit of line off, snapped the line, snapped the back and everything, and was gone. I said, "What the hell was that?" I go, "That wasn't any shad." The next day, he gets a call from the fish lift. And they said, "Hey, Frank, we got a big Atlantic salmon in here with a dart in his mouth and about 50 feet of fly line." Right? He goes, "That's my fish." So he runs up there and he starts taking pictures of it. Well, as fate would have it, the next day we went back out again and we continued clobbering these fish. And he turned around and he looked at me and he goes, "Let me tell you something." He goes, "You got to put this on the market." And I said, "Right. With all my millions, I'm going to rush right out and put this on the market, right?"
Right.
So anyways, he says, I told him, I said, Frank, listen, I said, here's some more darts. I'll give you what I can. I said, but I had no intention of marketing these things. So I'm sitting in my apartment. It's Sunday morning. The little guy brings the newspaper up, and I picked the newspaper. I used to read his column, and the column said, "New lure to hit market soon." So I'm reading about this new lure, and it was me with my phone number in the paper, everything, right? And he wrote an article about what happened and how it went and everything. And I was like, oh my God, my phone started to ring. So it was dealers up here. Hey, we want some of these darts. Can you make them for us? And not to make him look like an idiot, I'm in there and I'm pouring away and everything. And let me tell you, working a full-time job and coming home and doing that, it got old pretty quick.
Oh, sure.
So I ended up making enough money. I bought myself a centrifugal cast machine, and that's when it all started. I went from shad darts to bucktails to smiling bills, uppermans. I made them all, and I was making them for everybody. And I kept developing that paint. You could throw it against the wall, and nothing would chip off. And it was pretty serious stuff. But they outlawed all of that stuff. We used to spray in a cellar, and the woman's canary on the third floor would die, So that's how bad it was. It was terrible, But
that's hilarious.
Yeah. So, but really, I mean, you can't put a price tag on none of it. It was the way I started, and it was a great experience. And you need to start working your way up. And I met wonderful, wonderful people in this industry. Really.
Sure. And Al, it sounds like you're an opportunist, man. You found a need for something that wasn't being produced. And you know what? I tell you, the article in the newspaper was almost your feet to the fire of something that you would have never thought you were even possibly capable of doing. And then, that kind of put your feet right in the flames and made you do something that you never turned back and regretted doing, man. So
that was a towering inferno. It wasn't just on my feet. I mean, because, you look at this and you say, a friend is a friend,
Right.
And you don't want to make the guy look bad or like he doesn't know what he's talking about or whatever the case may be. And I'm like, holy cow, So anyways, like I said, one thing led to another, and here I am now, and we had some great, I fished with like Tony Stetsko was very close to me. We had some really good times. I was on Block Island, one of the 12 guys for the big snow blitz that time. And that was crazy. That was 1,500 pounds of fish per man per night. Think about it, And what's his name? Oh my God, Fred Arbogast called me, and this is how fate would have it. He said, hey, man, he goes, I want to come up and catch some of them rockfish. I said, rockfish? I goes, you mean stripers? He goes, yeah. And he kept torturing me because he heard, how great it was up here. And back then it was real good fishing. Rhode Island, everything, So I ended up going, picking him up at the airport. And it was kind of funny. He hated flying. He got off the plane and he was like pure white, and horrified. And he's a big guy, big 10-gallon hat. And he come off the plane, and he said, how y'all doing? I said, good. And I said, how was the flight? He goes, I hate to fly. Well, when he told me that, I felt kind of bad because I didn't have the heart to tell him we were driving to Westerly, Rhode Island and getting on a little Piper Cub and crossing over that time. Well, we get on the plane, and of course, we get up in the air, and the fog comes in. And he's horrified. And he's in the plane. I'll never forget it. The pilot was looking at me, winking. He goes, hey, tell me if you guys see any lights underneath us, right? I mean, you couldn't see nothing. We were coming down.
Goodness.
And he had the vectors on to hit the runway. And, I mean, he goes, I hear this little voice out of this big man go, I see something, And by that time, we were 4 feet off the runway. We hit the runway and pulled in there. But it was something. My friend picks me up at the airport with him, and we go over to the National Hotel. We didn't have a vehicle, so I said, we'll fish Ballards. It's right here, right in front of us, So we go in, we throw our stuff in the hotel, we come out, and it starts to snow. And I mean, it's snowing. It's Thanksgiving. This poor guy's freezing. He's from down south. He has no clue what's going on. So I give him the rod. I give him one of the big green needlefish I was making. And we had that through wired, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And, that we were the first ones to come in with that stuff. So we threw wired the needlefish. And I'm just praying. I just hope we get one hit. I threw out and I got tight right away. And I said to him, I said, hey, I said, here, take my rod. He goes, what do you mean? He goes, I'll catch my own. I go, no, take my rod. My arm hurts. Because I didn't know if we were going to get bit again all night.
Right.
So he took the rod. I go to reel his in and bang, we were on. And that's when it started. And there was a few other guys on the island that were fishing all around us. But the way we figure it, we had to have the largest school of striped bass probably ever seen, ever seen.
Sure.
You know? And it was just amazing of what happened. And it went like that for 3 nights. And we didn't have cell phones back then. So it wasn't like you could call your buddy on the mainland and, you know, come out there.
Right.
But we hammered it. And it was funny. We went out to the place. At the end, we called Needlefish Rock, and we laid all our needlefish on them rocks. We didn't even know we were making history that night. We were going to let the tide come in and just take them. You know what I mean? Because it was just something beautiful that had happened. And we did that, and there was an old timer sitting there. Well, I went back there, and this was in the 80s. I went back there in the early 2000s, and I went back to that rock where we laid them on, and I'm sitting there, and there's an old timer out in the end fishing, you know. So I walked up to him. I says, "Hey, how you doing? You catching anything?" I think he was tog fishing, you know. He goes, "I got a couple," and he looked down, and they were tog inside the pail, and I said, "Yeah." He goes, "This was a special place to me." He said, "You talking about Needlefish Rock there?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I was here when all them guys put that needlefish on the rock."
That's awesome.
Imagine that.
Awesome. Yeah,
the guy
that's
had
crazy.
90-something. I was like freaked out, you know. But like I said, these are the things that have happened to me over the years. And the people, I mean, Stetsko was outstanding fisherman, a great guy, you know, good guy. And he, you know, he'd do anything for anybody. But I'll tell you, when it came to fish, you know, his mind was like a fish. He had like gills and everything, and comical. And let me tell you, he done things with me, called me up. Now, I'm 3.5 hours from him.
Sure.
And he'd say to me, he'd say, "Hey, listen." He'd say, "They're on. They're here. Get down here," right? Now, 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm climbing in my car, driving from Springfield to Cape Cod, right?
Oh, man.
Pulling the parking lot, he goes, "We got to walk way out on a bar." He goes, "I found them." Now, when I say this guy's nuts and goes to extreme, he goes to extreme. So we're walking out. We get on the sandbar. Pitch black out there. You can hear him slapping, flapping, and everything, and we're hooking up like crazy. But now the fog's coming in thicker, right? But when we walked out, he had a handheld GPS. It was a prototype that Lawrence gave him.
Goodness.
Once, right? So he goes, "Yeah," he goes, "I'll just click on the handheld and we'll get back in." Now, this guy takes care of nothing on his equipment, right? Well, how are you going to feel when you're about a half a mile out and he's doing this?
Right.
Yeah, he's tapping it with his hand, trying to get it going, right? And I'm out there and I'm saying, "Oh my God," you know? But again, you know, this industry, like I said, brought me to some of the best people around.
Sure.
You know?
And Al, listen, you know, to rewind back a little bit, the feeling that you must have felt when you busted out your through wire needlefish and had one of the most memorable times of your life and produced fish with that needlefish, like this had to be just another reassuring, you know, reoccurrence that happened to you that was just like, you know, what I'm making and what I'm producing with love and you know, a lot of effort is working, you know, like that. There's no more special feeling than creating your own bait and actually producing decent fish with it, you know?
Well, the greatest feeling in the world for me is when I'm at a show and a guy will come up to me and say, "Hey, Al, my son and I clobbered fish. You made our summer with these lures. And I look at them and I go, wow. If you can do that to people and do it for people, that's like, that's great. And every lure I still put together here today, I know that someone's going to smile at the end of this. At the end of that cast, there's going to be a big smile, and it just makes me feel good.
Sure.
And I'll tell you, it comes back tenfold. And I'll tell you a story. I was on Fire District Beach in Rhode Island, and we were in a big blitz of fish, and a little kid was next to me, and he's got this beer can and stuff, like with the string, with a lure on it, trying to get out there. So I reeled my rod in, and I threw it out. He goes, here, reel this, right? And he's looking at me like I gave him gold, like this. And all of a sudden, boom, he gets tight. I goes, well, fight him. I goes, you hooked him. Let's go, right? And, I held the rod tip a little bit, and the biggest smile on a kid's face, Come to find out, he lived way up in the neighborhood there, not too far from the beach. So at the end of the blitz, I said, did you enjoy that? He said, yeah. So I gave him my rod and reel. I gave it to him. I said, this is yours to keep. Well, about 5 years ago, at the Providence show, this couple walked in my booth with a little boy. Not a little boy. Kid was about maybe 10 years old, And the guy's looking around. It's very well dressed. You could tell these people were kind of prominent,
Sure.
And they're walking around, and his wife kept looking at me, and I'm saying, all right, what did I do, right? And all of a sudden, he turns to me, he goes, you don't remember me, do you? I said, to be honest with you, I meet so many people, no, I don't, right? He goes, you ever fish Fire District Beach? And I said, yeah, all the time. He goes, remember giving a rod to a little kid? I goes, I do, He goes, I'm that little kid.
Wow, dude.
Yeah. And he came in, and he's an orthopedic surgeon today.
Wow.
He said to me, you ever break a bone or you need surgery, you call me.
That's it.
And his wife turned to me and said, that rod you gave him is hanging over our fireplace, and he won't even touch it.
That's special, Al.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And that numbed me for about 4 days. I wasn't even right. I was like walking around like banging into walls. Because saying, here's this guy, because you never know what's going to come back to you. You just don't,
Sure.
But,
Zach, you got anything for Mr. Al here, man?
Oh, yeah. No, that story is awesome. That's an awesome story right there. I definitely like to hear a lot more about the company too. Like, when did the plastics start coming into play? When did you start making the plastics and the soft lures?
Okay, well, I made the soft lures actually back in the 80s. I made a lure called the Super Mac. And that's when we came in with like a pad printing type thing on the bait. We had developed that way back then. And I made the Super Macro, but you really couldn't, people weren't into that soft plastic stuff. It sold, but guys got, the Sharpies grabbed it and put it on a spreader bar and had them all like this, for a tuna thing. So, I mean, bluefish were coming up and just wrecking those bars, And I was just like standing there, here you go, and just kept it going. So that's where the extent of the soft plastic went. But what happened was I had made some prototype molds, some very small molds, and I hand poured a couple of different things. And I was trying to get the paddle tail correct. And I built these paddle tails at a 20 degree. But the key was the head I put on it for the water dynamics to go by the head and lift the tail up the right way to get it rolling and paddling at the same time. So that's what we did. And once I accomplished that, I knew it would catch and I knew it would probably take off. And we got lucky and got it. We were up against a lot of big companies and it took off for us. And, I'm not saying we're a household name, but a lot of guys know our plastics.
Absolutely. That's when I think of Al Gags, the whippet fish, that's what first thing that comes to my mind. I worked at Magic Tail for the last 7 years, but the one thing we never ventured into was soft plastic. So, I was using our heads, but I was using your bait because I loved how durable your bait was and how thick it was. There's no bait on the market like the whippet fish.
Right.
Has that durability.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That's very kind. I had when we put it together, the composites of the plastic are a lot different. You can go crazy with composites and plastics and all kinds of stuff for a long time, but you got to get the blend that's going to make it move. You can get the generic shads and they all look nice in the water, but they're not rolling. They're doing one thing. They're doing this. You know what I mean? You want that roll. You want it to look like what it's supposed to look like.
So Al, tell me, is there still different baits by you in production, like the Gagster? I mean, I know I've seen some things from in the past, the Slammer Blitz lure. I mean, there's a bunch of things that you've put out. Are they still in production, or are you basically just sticking with the soft plastics, the jig heads, and some of the flounder rigs that you have now?
No, we have the soft plastics. We have the Gagster now. That's going very well, and when everybody sees it, they think it's a glide bait, and it's not. It won't glide at all. What it's made for, you throw it out, it floats, reel it nice and slow, and it does this on top of the water. Give it a little jerk, it'll go like this and right itself and start swimming back to you again. Or drop the rod tip and crank it, and it'll go down subsurface.
Wow.
There's a lot to that bait, but I have something else, and I'm going to show you. Can you grab one of those right on the table there, the jig? Yes, thank you. All of them, I guess. I'll be able to show you these. These are going to be really, really nice. This is the color we made. It's called High Octane.
Oh, yeah.
And this is for offshore. You see this?
Yeah.
Football hook.
Yeah. And
oh God, that's so nice, man. That's so nice. Because the big tuna, I mean,
the swivel's inside the mold, it looks like, inside the casting itself.
what? Right. Well, this here, we got it up to 800 pounds before it started to budge at all.
Shoo.
Yeah. So it's going to be a pretty unique jig, and it's going to be priced really, really right. And the tuna guys are going to love it. This is a hook we had owner make for us. Wow. And so we're going to have a lot of fun. We're making it in 6 and 8 ounce. And
Sure.
I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be really something. So
I'm looking forward to throwing that bait.
well, this is all right. The swivel's not here. We always tell the people to put the swivel up on the top of this. That's where you're going to get your most thing. This is a free flying. It's molded around it.
Sure.
So it's free flying up and down, side to side. Like this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, hell, it's not connected. It's not fixed, is what I was trying to get to, and that's perfect.
Right, but we're really excited about this, and you mentioned Magic Tail. Dante's a nice guy. He's a good guy, and he makes a great product. He makes a great bucktail, and all the other stuff he does, his mojos and everything are nice. And once again, people shouldn't take people in the industry for granted all the time, because look at my idols were Stan Gibbs, Bob Pond from Adam, and I used to hang with them guys. I was like the young buck. Now I'm like they were. I used to say to myself, wow, it must be hard being like them, being old, and here I am. So, but it's people got to respect what they have out there,
Sure.
and what this industry can do. The worst thing they do is start comparing themselves that I'm better than this guy, or this guy's better than this guy, or whatever. No, go out there, fish, enjoy yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest thing to be concerned about, it's the only outdoors we have, so let's protect it. That's the motto they should live by.
I agree. I agree, man. I have a young daughter, 13 years old, and I try to get her out as much as possible. She absolutely loves the outdoors. She's thinking of becoming a marine biologist, and when I tell you that means so much, that she loves the outdoors and nature and wildlife as much as I do, I mean, I feel like I've succeeded already by showing her that little bit of love that, is needed for the outdoors. I mean, it's just
Absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely. Listen, the best gift you can ever give your children is your time.
Right.
That's the best gift, and you're doing it. Zach, do you have any kids?
Nah, not yet. I'm 21. But
How old are you?
21.
Oh, wait a while.
He's
Go
got
fishing
time.
a little more.
You got
But remember, someday you're going to run out of bait.
That's awesome. That's all right. That's it. Everybody goes and gets out gags. That's all. You run out of bait, you go get the gag. That's all.
That's it. There you go.
Zach, you got anything for him, bud?
There's a million things running through my head right now. I'm trying to think of trying to zone in on one topic here real quick.
That's all right. Take your time. Listen, while you're thinking about that, Al, who was some of the biggest inspiration to get you into fishing from the start, buddy? For me personally, it was my mom. She was a single mom, took me out there with the best she could afford from Walmart or maybe even a hand-me-down and, put me on some bluegills early and got me addicted to that tug, that little bite.
That's it.
Who'd you have in your life that got you out there first?
Actually, I got to say it was my dad. From the time I was in a tailor tot, we used to, if there was a puddle, I wanted to throw a bobber and a worm in there, you know what I mean? And just, wait for that bobber to go down. I'd stare at it, like this. And
Oh,
this.
yeah.
If they had to babysit me, they'd take a bucket and put a bobber in it, and I'd watch it all day. I wouldn't move. But the thing is, too, the best way to get a child fishing is exactly what happened to you. Your mom did absolutely the right thing with the bluegills and everything because it kept your interest. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And again, take your hat off to her because, you wouldn't be where you are today if you didn't take that time with that rod and that reel to do it. And I tell most parents that, it just get these kids off these computer games and off these cell phones and everything else and get them fishing or get them outside, get them playing football or whatever. But
sure,
don't be a couch potato,
Sure. And go ahead, Zach.
Oh no, I was just agreeing with that. It's getting outside. That's Al. We definitely have three generations here, three completely different generations talking here. And especially my younger generation coming up. I see it a lot. I'm fortunate enough to be into the hunting, into the fishing, outdoors a lot. But I see a lot of kids my age that just, like Al said, couch potatoes, stuck in the house. So fishing's definitely a good way to just get out and do something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's obviously all I like to do. Just keeps every day I'm motivated to go fish. You go to work. The reason you're working is to get money to go blow on fishing gear.
There you go. There. Well, you know what? You're 21. You can do it, and God bless you. Go do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just said. Work, eat, sleep, fish.
Yep,
that's it.
Right. You have a family. I'm sure, Aaron. Right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And me, I have grandchildren now. And
sure.
And everybody wants to go fishing, and they want to do this stuff, so we'll take them. That's it. But guess where I take them? For the bluegills and everything else, right there.
That's right. That's right.
And control 4 granddaughters.
Yeah, you need the bluegills.
Right, a lot of bluegills. So.
Yeah. So but, Al, speaking of the bluegills, man, and the freshwater, I've noticed your transition from saltwater fishing to doing a lot more bass fishing, man. Is there a small maybe side career in getting into some tournaments in the freshwater game, or you just doing it for fun?
Well, I love it because we have a retiree league, okay? And yeah, we fish every Tuesday, and half of the guys in there are Zach's age, so they're not retiring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
But it's a lot of fun, and we have a good time. And I love doing some largemouth, smallmouth fishing. I lived on the Connecticut River my whole life, And and I get a lot of stripers up there during the spring, you know, and I have a lot of fun with them. But like I said, you know, my days with Stan Gibbs, Bob Pond, Stetsko, all of them, you know, out in that, you know, out in the salt water, and then being out in the canyons and doing a lot of different things. You know, I had my full. I used to own Hydra Sports. Now I own an Alumacraft, which is 17 feet long. If you get a white cap of 6 inches, you're going to drown.
Right. You're going to feel every bit of it too. Oh, yeah.
No, but, you know, it's your life changes. It'll happen to you guys, you know. You'll say, you know what, I'm sick of killing myself with waders on and getting knocked over with waves and falling off rocks and everything else out there, you know. And I've had it all, you know. And it's a lot safer sitting in a nice little seat with a trolling motor under you, you know.
Sure.
And trying to, you know, outfox the thing. But when I get to the shows and, you know, if I'm doing a seminar there or I'm just talking to people and they'll ask me questions, they'll ask me the same thing you do. How come you freshwater fish like this? It's sacrilege or something that I'm doing. But it's not. It's just, it's fun. You know, you got to be well versed in a lot of things you do, you know?
That's right. That's right. And I tell you what, I'm blessed. So is Zach. I mean, my God, I grew up in South Jersey. I'd spent 30 some years of my life in South Jersey. Excuse me. And there's plenty of freshwater lakes around. Zach, where I'm at now in South Florida, I have a world-renowned freshwater fishery called Headwaters Lake, and it's right next to the Stick Marsh. And I have guys like Roland Martin out there. I mean, every friggin' Tuesday, this man's, I catch him at the boat ramp. So, you know, I can't believe what I actually have in my backyard, and I didn't know about it for quite some time. I took a ride out one day, and I came across this lake, and I see all these boats and all these trailers parked there, and I'm like, something's got to be going on this friggin' lake. So one day I take the boat, and it's that lake that you feel like every cast you could have a 10-pound bass, you know, like.
Well, down there you can, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's no joke down there. I mean, here you get a 3 plus 4 or 5, occasional 6, and those are trophy fish, you know.
Yeah.
For up in this neck of the woods, but being, you know, down in Florida and stuff like that, to have the opportunity you have. Now, how old are you, Aaron?
Me, I'm 34.
There you go. I mean, man, if I was 34, I had an opportunity like that, it'd be wild, you know.
I know, Bob. I know. But it's funny how you talk about wanting to sit on the trolling motor and just scoot around out. Because I was out on Saturday and I thought I hooked a grouper, right? And I dreaded the idea of hooking that grouper because I knew the fight that was in you know, the foresight for me. I was like, I've done this. I fought them. I got them to the boat, right? Yeah, exactly. And I was dreading the fact of having to pull the anchor and chase this thing around, dude. I was just like, all right, I've reached the age where enough is enough of dragging these grouper, you know, like, and hey, listen, I know I'm going to get my balls busted for talking like this, but at that point I was like, I'm done. I've had enough. I'm getting off the friggin' water. That was the end of it. So I get wanting to sit in a comfy chair and troll motor around, dude. I really do.
You know, it's funny you say that because, you know, you get people that, you know, go after them Goliath grouper and all that stuff. And I was present for a lot of that stuff. And
sure,
I was smart enough not to do it, you know,
right.
You know, because it's that speed thing. You know, I'd get one tug and I'd be under there with the grouper, you know.
Right,
but,
right.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I blew my shoulders out and, you know, and everything else, you know, for doing a lot of that stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And, but, you know, at least I did it. I experienced it and it was fun. Well, maybe not that much fun, but fun.
Sure.
And, but now, you know, you sit back and, you know, with age, they're right, comes wisdom because you got beat up so many times. You know, you're smart enough now to stay away, you know.
That's right. Right.
You know, we have a great sport. We really do. And I don't like when, you know, you go online and you see a lot of different people, you know, bickering and fighting and, you know, so stay off my spot or spot burn. What's a spot burn? I never heard of a spot burn. You know?
Yeah. You know? That's a newer thing. I mean, Zach, I'm sure would be able to fill you in on that new terminology, buddy. I mean, you got a lot of that going on in South Jersey, eh?
Oh yeah, the spot burn. When you post a picture and you can look in the background, maybe perhaps see a lighthouse, and, a very popular lighthouse. Someone might consider that spot burning. And, I'm 50-50 on that. Yeah, I feel like some tackle shops, they feel the heat for so-called spot burning, but people want to go out and fish. I don't know why some people have to ruin it for others. Like, if someone asks me where I'm fishing, I'm going to tell them where I'm fishing because I want to see them catch fish. I want to see other people enjoy it.
Right.
When I'm out there, fishing a wreck tog fishing and a boat pulls up on me, I see them punching in the GPS. That's a little different.
Right. Right.
As a surf scene, I want to see people catch fish because if you see people catching fish, that means they're buying product, and you got to look at it as a business standpoint and also just a personal standpoint.
Right.
Sure.
It's a hobby. People do it for fun. You want people to have fun. It's
exactly. Yeah. No, listen. It's fishing. It's not the Mona Lisa. I see friendships break up. I see all kinds of things break up. Over that, and I'm like, Jesus. I mean, why?
Sure.
A friendship is precious, and our sport is precious too. And the real enemy out there is PETA, not us.
Oh,
yeah.
Al, listen, that's a whole nother podcast, buddy, because my blood pressure raised about 10% when you said that name, bud. I swear to you. But
I had him.
Go ahead, get him.
I had them picket my house with signs that said, weapons of mass destruction made here, with pictures of fish. They picketed 20 of them back and forth, in front of my house. But they failed to realize I live next door to the chief of police who hunts and fishes. So, needless to say, they were all escorted off the property.
That's perfect.
I've done through the ringer with them people, But.
Well, I got a perfect question for you, and we'll wrap it up with this question, Al. I know we're getting a little later here. I ask every guest, right? I'm trying to remember to ask every guest this because this is something that I feel we get the best responses by asking. What does fishing and the sport of fishing mean to you?
Well, actually, it means solitude. It means remembrance. To me, I'll sit at a place and I'll fish, and I'll wonder how many of the great ones have passed through here. And it brings back so much to me in my mind. I mean, I go to Nauset Beach and I'll sit there and I'll remember Tony Stetsko, God rest his soul, or Bob Pond or Stan Gibbs, you know what I mean? And a lot of the greats that, that came long before me,
Mm-hmm.
And but it's a solace to me. Fishing is the thing about it. You have water, it's everything that was created for us here on Earth.
Sure.
And that's what it means to me. It means solace and peace.
Well, that's an amazing answer, buddy. Because I tell you what, you and Jerry Bessels, the director or the operator of the Wildwood Convention Center, or the fishing expo that's at the Wildwood Convention Center, you guys damn near answered exactly the same when it comes to that question. So you guys have a lot more in common than maybe you think you do, because that was almost spot on to what that gentleman said. So that was an amazing answer, man, for sure.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Yes. And you got anything left for him, Zach, at all before we go?
No, this was just this is a great pleasure. When he messaged me earlier today and he asked if I want to hop on the podcast and have a conversation, he brought up Al Gaggs, and I'm like, that's this would be a perfect opportunity for me to I just want to sit in and listen. And I was really hoping to hear some awesome stories. And you provided some great stories. Keep making the great product you do. That's just a staple business that you have. And like you were saying, not to go off topic, but you were talking about the banter on the internet. We hear the jig wars, we hear the competition between this and that. No one ever has a bad thing to say about Al Gaggs because that's an established business. And Al's just done a great job at marketing. He never copied, never duplicated. He always did his own thing and just created a great product. And no one ever had a bad thing to say about his, any of his stuff. And Dante, I worked with Dante for 7 years. He's always talked highly about you. I walked in this shop the other day and saw a bunch of your plastics. So
he's a good guy. He put him on the umbrella rigs,
Yeah, they'll be on my boat. He's they'll definitely be on my boat along with all the other plastics I buy.
If you see them, please tell them I said hello.
Absolutely will do. It was a pleasure getting to talk to you with you tonight.
Thank you, both of you. Thanks for having me. And once again, I always end it with, it's the only outdoors we have, so please let's protect it.